Chicago Crime Files. Chicago, Illinois, the greatest city in the entire world. Home of the world's greatest athletes, world leaders, and influential people. Yet Chicago is also known for being one of the most violent and politically corrupt cities on the map. Earlier this week, Chicago's new mayor, Lori Lightfoot, publicly G-checked Republican Ted Cruz, whose statements about Chicago violence did not sit well with the current mayor. Statistically, Chicago violence has increased exponentially in the last 3 years, but contrary to those numbers, Chicago has always been a violent place with a blood-stained history. Let's examine the factors that led Chicago to go from being known as the Windy City to being called Chirac. Chicago's first murder was committed by John Kinsey in 1812. Kinsey was a fur trader and justice of the peace from Quebec, who lived in the former house of Jean-Baptiste Point de Sabo, who founded Chicago. Kinsey slain Jean Lalime, then fled to Milwaukee and met with Native Americans that were planning attacks on American settlements, even Chicago. Kinsey identified as a British subject and had a very anti-American attitude. It is speculated that Kinsey killed Lalime because Lalime was telling about corrupt purchasing supplies within Fort Dearborn, where Kinsey worked and traded. How did Chicago go about punishing the city's first murderer? We named a city street and a bridge after him. His crime was viewed as self-defense, and he was allowed to return to Chicago, where he died in 1828. In the same year of the murder of Lalime, the massacre at Fort Dearborn occurred. In a battle between Potawatomi Native Americans and U.S. troops that lasted all of 15 minutes, over 50 military, civilian, women, and children were killed, while 15 Native Americans died. In 1886, the Haymarket Riot occurred in what is still to this day the single most deadly incident of officers being killed in the line of duty in the history of the Chicago Police Department. The dispute between striking workers and police resulted in 11 deaths and over 130 injuries. In 1891, Chicago became the hunting grounds for one of America's first and one of the most horrific serial killers of all time. Henry Webster Mudgett, aka Dr. Henry Howard Holmes, or H.H. Holmes, which is how he is more commonly known, is a serial killer and con artist that built a murder castle on the corner of 63rd and Wallace in 1886. Now remember, this murder castle was at 63rd and Wallace. This is in the Inglewood neighborhood. We're going to come back to this. Having confessed to as many as 200 murders, only 9 could be confirmed. This murder hotel was located only 3 miles west of 1893's World Fair Columbian Exposition. By this point in Chicago history, the murder toll is very high. Police nor politicians are considered to be the most trustworthy, and Chicago has only been an actual city for 59 years. Next time on Chicago Crime Files, we will be examining the role that 20th century violence played in Chicago's Prohibition and gang eras.